Hey everyone, today we're talking about evictions in California, specifically the 3-day notice to pay rent or quit. If you're a landlord or a tenant in California, this is crucial information you need to know. Now, evictions are never fun, but in California, they're especially tricky. There are very specific steps that need to be followed. We're going to break down the process, explain what a 3-day notice actually is, and highlight the important things both landlords and tenants need to be aware of. So, what is a 3-day notice to pay rent or quit? Basically, it's a legal document a landlord gives a tenant when they're behind on rent. It gives the tenant 3 days to either pay the outstanding rent in full or move out. The notice has to be very clear about how much rent is owed and the deadline for payment. There are very specific requirements for what needs to be included in the notice and how it has to be served. It cannot include late fees or any charges other than the base rent amount. If a landlord tries to add extra charges, the tenant could actually challenge the notice in court. The landlord also has to serve the notice correctly. Slipping it under the door or sending a text isn't enough. California law requires personal delivery, leaving it with a responsible adult at the property, followed up by a mailed copy, or posting it on the property with the court's permission. What happens if the tenant doesn't pay or move out after those 3 days? The landlord can file an unlawful detainer lawsuit. This basically means the tenant is illegally staying on the property after being given proper notice to leave. This kicks off the court process, which can include hearings and judgments, and could ultimately result in the tenant being forcibly removed by the sheriff. Now, this doesn't mean the tenant is completely out of options. They have rights, and they can fight the eviction in court. For example, they could dispute the amount of rent owed, or they could point out issues with the property that make it unlivable, also known as habitability issues. Here are some key takeaways for both landlords and tenants in California dealing with 3-day notices. Landlords, follow the law to the letter. Make sure the notice is accurate, served correctly, and only for unpaid rent. Any misstep could invalidate your case. Tenants, know your rights. If you believe the notice is invalid or there are mitigating circumstances, don't be afraid to seek legal advice. Communication is key. Both landlords and tenants should strive for open and honest communication. If there's an issue, address it early on before things escalate. Evictions are a complicated and sensitive subject, and we've just scratched the surface here.